Oh, Dark Shadows fans. Dan Herman, publisher of Hermes Press, with a big surprise. It's finally done. Dark Shadows, the complete newspaper dailies and Sundays, is finally published. It took a while, Dark Shadows fans, but through detective work and persistence, we were able to come up with the last 3 months of the Sunday strips, which we didn't have, in order to complete this book and make it perfect. Let's talk a little bit about Hermes Press and Dark Shadows. Hermes Press began its relationship with Dark Shadows and the Dark Shadows community back in 2009 when we got our license, but we came out with the first volume of our comic book reprints, the Gold Key Dark Shadows series, back in 2010. So it's been 8 years since we've been doing Dark Shadows reprints and Dark Shadows books. This book is long out of print. This has the first 7 issues of the Gold Key comic books. We put out 5 volumes. We reprinted the complete 35 issues of Dark Shadows. We also put out a redo or redesign of the Dark Shadows original story digest. And before I go any further, I'd just like to thank everybody involved with Dark Shadows, especially Jim Pearson, who without his help and encouragement, the series of comic book reprints never would have happened. And most importantly, this reprint of the complete newspaper strips would also never have existed. It's only with Jim's encouragement that we went forward and searched for this material and found it. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to kind of show you how we do reprints and to explain to you the material we used and to compare it with the way it looks in this book. But before I go any further, I also have to give a big shout out to Jeff Thompson, who's been there from the beginning and helped us in every aspect of these books. He's contributed material. He actually lent us some strips for this book. He's written the introduction to every one of the books we've done. There's no question that he's a scholar of Gothic romance and of Dark Shadows. And there's no better example of this than all of the introductions he's written for these books. So again, I have to extend a big shout out to him for his help in these books. But now, let's look at the book. Let's see what it looks like. The cover is a composite of 2 images, which I designed, which I think embodies the tone of Ken Ball's artwork in the strip. The back cover has my personal favorite story, which has Barnabas Collins and an ancient Egyptian goddess. But we won't get into the story because if you haven't read it, I don't want to ruin it for you. The end leaves of the book, the end papers, took one panel that I thought was especially interesting. We blew it out over 2 pages, and then we reduced the opacity of it, so it's kind of a ghost image, and I think that's an appropriate description for Dark Shadows. The book, as you can see, is in color in black and white. The dailies were produced in black and white. The Sundays are in color. However, when you print a book of this nature, that means that the whole book has to be printed in color. So as you can see, we have the contents page and Jeff Thompson's introduction. We have some original art blown up. We have his discussion of the continuities, the storylines that run through the strip. We obviously have photographs from the series juxtaposed with original artwork. And in the reproduction of this book, we used several sources. We used tear sheets for the Sundays. We used original art for some of the dailies. We actually had scans of some of the original art, so we used that. And of course, we used tear sheets. Now, what's a tear sheet? You hear me use that expression a lot in these things. It literally means to tear it out of the newspaper. Some people clip them out of the newspaper, but they don't call them clip sheets. They call them tear sheets. Now, let's take a very close look at, this is the first Sunday. The strip started on a Sunday. And let's compare it with our reproduction of the strip here. What you can see is that ours is cleaner. It's just as sharp, but it has been extensively redone so that areas where the plates don't line up, registration errors have been corrected in our reprint. The other thing you'll notice is that and I'm going to show you this so you can actually get a look at it. Our reprint of the Sunday in this book is actually maybe 10 or 15% larger. If you look at the top and the bottom where it lines up, it's actually 10 to 15% larger than the original strips that appeared in the newspaper. So actually, we're giving you a bigger reproduction that's actually nicer and cleaner and just as clear as the originals. Here's the second strip that ran, the second Sunday strip, which ran 6 days after the first Sunday. Here's what the black and whites are. You'll notice that if you compare the tear sheets of the newspaper strips, the daily newspaper strips, we scan these at a very high resolution, so we're able to make them larger without losing any of the detail. Also, I would note that we, without being repetitive, that we actually had original artwork which had been scanned, so we blew out the background colors to make it look like the strip, so it doesn't stand out as being too different, although it is a bit sharper. Here's another Sunday, as you can see. Here's ours. Let me see if I can find the corresponding one here. Yeah, here's the corresponding daily, or rather Sunday. So I have all these organized, but I have to pull them out here. There we go. So you can see how this has been, it's aged, it's browned, it's discolored, it's oxidized. And then you can see, I'll give you an example. You can see our strip is clearer, sharper, there's more contrast, the aging has been removed, the areas of overlap in the plates have been digitally adjusted so they don't stick out. And this runs through the entire book. You can see more examples of this. And at the end of the book, as is our usual practice, more dailies. And as is the usual practice in our books, at the end of the book, we usually have a focus section, and we do in this. And the focus is on the difference between the original artwork and what it looks like versus the printed newspaper strips. The last two strips are here with an appropriate and very striking picture of Jonathan Frid as Barnabas, followed by our focus section, which is here, which features some of the original art that we had. And here's the back cover of the book. There's the spine. Now, the book has been printed, and this is what's called an advanced copy. We just got it from the printer. In about 3 weeks, the book should be in the United States. It'll take another 2 weeks for them to get to the distributor. However, if you order the book, or you ordered the book from us, you will get it first through our website. Then you can get them to your comic book stores or through Amazon.com or Barnes & Noble or wherever you bought it from. I would encourage you to buy the book. It is the definitive reprint of the complete newspaper strips. A lot of care and a lot of time was put into doing this book. A couple of things I want to really thank the people at Ohio State University for supplying the strips that we needed to complete it. I want to thank Jim Pearson, who has been there for us throughout our association with Dark Shadows. And I want to thank Jeff Thompson for giving us all his time and effort to produce all the essays that preface all of the books that we've produced. And I'll end with a little surprise. I can't tell you when or where, but there's another edition of this book that's really special. And it's not been sold, it's not available, it's already been printed. But stay tuned, because I can tell you a little later when this book will be available and how it's very different and very special. But that's my surprise for you. Anyway, any questions, email us at Hermes Press. You can email me personally, Daniel at HermesPress.com. You have any questions, you can ask me. You can ask our managing editor, who runs our website, does our Facebook page. That's Sabrina at HermesPress.com. I'm very proud of this book. It took a long time to put it together. We solicited it several years ago and were unable to proceed with it due to the fact that we couldn't get all the strips. And we got them all. Persistence finally paid off. And I really wanted to do this strip because I think it's one of the most beautiful printed versions of Dark Shadows. Ken Bald nailed Jonathan Frid and nailed the characters down, and they really look phenomenal. Joe Certa's style was different. It's apples and oranges. Joe Certa was doing a comic book. This is really a beautiful, beautiful book with beautiful work. And if you love Dark Shadows, as I do and everybody at Hermes Press does, you're going to love this book. Anyway, that's all for now. Bye-bye.